Welcome back. So today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to be fixing baby monitors. Actually, we're going to be making one good baby monitor out of two broken ones. So this one has a broken LCD screen. It doesn't come on even though the power goes on, nothing happens. And the battery is good on this one. Pretty much everything is good on this one except for the LCD screen. This one I got for $16.88 on eBay, and it has a good LCD, basically good everything except the power port, the charging port here is a little bit flaky. So I'm thinking the buttons on this one are all worn off. So I'm thinking that I will take the board from this one, fix the power connector, I hope, and then put it in this chassis. So we will see. So I guess the first thing to do is to open up one of them. These things come apart there. Basically clip together. So you can see how there are these little plastic clips that clip onto these hooks. Let's see. And then we got four actually, four small screws here. I need a small screwdriver. Alright, there we go. Now these monitors, they really, I guess, are not meant to come apart. The clips seem to break easily on them, and it's hard to get something in there to pry it apart without breaking it. So yeah, hopefully it'll go back together. You can always super glue it, right? Alright, so I got the one I bought that has the good LCD apart, and the power connector here feels a little bit on the loose side. I'm not sure whether one of the solder joints is cracked or whether the board itself has a problem. So I figure I'm going to look at it under the microscope and take a look. Well, I think there's a problem. Cracked solder joints. Hopefully you can see that. That is one of the leads on this power connector. Alright, I'm all set up. I have the soldering iron warmed up and a decently beefy tip on it to get some heat on those joints. The first thing I'm going to do is dab a little bit of flux on there. That'll help to get the solder flowing. Alright, now that we got the flux there, I have this board on a metal base, and I have a paper towel underneath the LCD screen so it doesn't get scratched. Hopefully nothing will light on fire. Got my anti-static band on. And let's just go ahead and yep, we're good. Get it nice and hot so the solder flows. And I'm just going to resolder all the connections. There we go. Soldering is a very useful skill to have, and it has served me well over the years. Alright, before I put this thing back together, I want to make sure it works because these those clips have a limited life in them. So I stuck a battery in, and I am going to take this power connector and stick it in. Still looks like there's a problem. Seems like the plug is loose in the connector. I think I might have to replace that entire connector, swap that one out with this one from the old board. Look at that. So it comes on, but you just pushed a little bit and it goes off. Yeah, this is the old board, and the connector is not as loose, or the power plug is not as loose in the connector, and the LEDs stay lit. Alright, hopefully you can see this. I am going to use a little bit of copper braid here. So this is the old board with the broken LCD, and I'm going to try and extract the power connector off of it. So I am just going to use a little bit of copper braid here to try and suck up as much of the solder on these connectors as I can. Ideally, you would probably like to have 2 soldering irons so that you could kind of lift up one side at a time, but I do not have that here, so let's see, what am I going to do? I think You ever feel like you're being watched? Sometimes it helps to put some flux on the joints to get the solder to wick. And let me work on that. Alright, after working at it for some time, I got the good connector off of the bad board with bad LCD, and I also got this bad connector off of this good board. And you probably can't see it in this video, in this clip, but this connector is actually cracked down the middle, and that might be why it was making a bad connection. I'm going to try and put this under the microscope so you can see. Alright, hopefully you can see that. That connector, the plastic is all cracked up, and so you know, everything is loose, and the connections are not very good. So let's get the good connector on this board and see how it works. Alright, what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to clean up these circuit pads a little bit. Try and get any excess solder off of there. Get them relatively clean. Then what I like to do is I like to just spray some flux off on here with a Q-tip. And just clean that whole area up and get all of that flux off. Prep the surface for soldering, so I'm going to put a dab of flux right on the pads, like so. I am just going to put a little bit of solder right on the pads. Alright, now that the pads are all prepped with cleaned and got some solder on them, I'm going to stick the part where I want it. And then I'm just going to touch the soldering iron to the pad, and that's going to stick it. Like that. So do that on all 5 pads. That. And then I am going to apply a little bit more flux. And then finish off with a bit more solder. You always want to apply your solder to the joint, not to the iron. The iron heats up the joint, the pad, and the lead on the part, and the solder should flow into the joint. So if you're finding yourself touching the solder to the iron itself, that means the joint is not hot enough, and you are going to get a cold solder joint, which is prone to cracking. Alright, a little bit of flux off. Yeah, pretty decent joints. So I guess now, let's see if it works. Alright, here we go. Plug this in. Charging. Wiggle it around. That seems pretty good. So that's good. I call this board a working board. So the original one is a little bit less scratched, but the keys are all worn away, so let's swap these out. You know what? These little arms feel like they're going to break. So I may just leave well enough alone. Actually, it looks like they are kind of welded in, like the plastic was melted in, and these may not be able to be taken out. Like I said, I don't think this thing is really meant to be all that serviceable. So I'm just going to use the one with the clearer screen and the worn off buttons. Should be fine. Alright, I got this thing back together. Pretty easy to reassign. Oh. Power button. Can't believe I forgot that. Alright, got the power button back in. I think I broke a couple more of those clips. There we go. I think that should be the good battery. And it is charging. Yep, no signal. I'm gonna go get a cam and see if I can pair this thing and see if it works. Alright, I have a monitor here, and let's see if I can figure out how to work this thing. Oh. Well, that works. And there you are. So I think we have a working monitor again. That is very good. My wife will be very pleased. So again, if you like these videos, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.